So, the new Dune Awakening gameplay just dropped. And honestly, it's not what most people expected. This isn't your typical sci-fi shooter or story-driven RPG. This is Dune reimagined as a massive survival MMO set in the deadly deserts of Arrakis. And yeah, the internet is already split. Some fans are calling it ambitious, immersive, and true to the harsh world of Dune, while others are saying, wait, is this just another grindy survival game in a pretty skin? In today's video, we're breaking down what this gameplay really shows, what people are saying online, and whether this could be a masterpiece in the making or a big missed opportunity. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, one thing that stands out in the new Dune Awakening gameplay is the scale. It's massive. This isn't just a desert map with a few outposts. We're talking about a full open world with dynamic sandstorms, shifting dunes, and huge spaces that actually make you feel small. The devs really nailed the feeling of isolation and danger that's core to the Dune universe. Graphically, it's impressive. The lighting, the sound effects, and the sci-fi tech designs look straight out of a high-budget film. The sandworms? Absolutely terrifying. But here's the thing. While the visuals got people hyped, a lot of players were also asking, okay, this looks great, but what do we actually do in this world? And that's where opinions start to split. Some fans were excited just by the idea of surviving on Arrakis, scavenging gear, and avoiding death at every corner. Others were already comparing it to No Man's Sky, Rust, and Ark, wondering if the gameplay would just be another grind-heavy survival loop. On forums and YouTube comments, people are saying stuff like, looks amazing, but if it's all about finding water and crafting clothes, I'm out. It's clear the devs are focusing on immersion and world building first, but whether that turns into satisfying gameplay, that's still the big question. Once you get past the visuals, the core of Dune Awakening becomes clear. This is a survival MMO at its heart. And survival in the world of Arrakis is no joke. You're not just fighting enemies. You're fighting the planet itself. Heat, dehydration, sandstorms, limited resources, everything is trying to kill you. The gameplay showcases players scavenging for gear, crafting tools, and hunting for water, which is a huge part of Dune lore, so it makes sense. But this is where fans are starting to debate. For players who love survival sims like Rust, Ark, or Conan Exiles, this is exciting. A deep, punishing world with real consequences. But for players who came in hoping for a more cinematic narrative RPG like Mass Effect or Starfield, this feels like a bait and switch. What's interesting is how the game encourages constant movement. Staying in one place too long might lead to sandworm attacks or losing resources to the environment. You have to be smart, know when to travel, when to hide, and when to engage. It creates tension, sure, but the big question online is, will this loop stay fun after 20 or 30 hours? Some users on Reddit and Discord are worried the grind will get boring fast, unless there's strong progression and variety. Others are hopeful, saying the MMO systems, including faction dynamics and PvP zones, could keep things fresh. Right now, it's a game that looks like it wants to immerse you completely in the world of Dune, but it's walking a thin line between authentic survival and tedious grinding. Now let's talk about what really separates Dune Awakening from your average survival game: the MMO systems and player progression. One of the most talked about features is something called the Awakening system. It's basically how your character grows and evolves, and it sounds like it gives you a lot of freedom to shape your identity. Instead of being stuck in fixed classes, the game seems to allow hybrid builds, so you could focus on combat, stealth, technology, or even political manipulation depending on how you play. That kind of flexibility has excited a lot of MMO veterans, especially those who are tired of rigid roles. But at the same time, some fans are skeptical. They want to know, how deep is this system really? Is it going to reward creative playstyles, or just be a shallow talent tree with a fancy name? There's also a lot of online chatter about the faction system. You're not just surviving solo, you'll be interacting with different groups vying for control over Arrakis. Think player-run guilds, alliances, betrayals, and massive PvP battles over spice resources. That's a dream scenario for competitive MMO players, but a red flag for casual players who just want a solo-friendly experience. Some comments on YouTube and Twitter say, This looks like Dune-themed EVE Online, and that scares me. Others are excited about the political and economic possibilities, saying the game could become one of the most player-driven experiences in years. It's ambitious for sure, but ambition doesn't mean much unless the systems are fun, balanced, and fair. So right now, the MMO elements look promising, but a lot of players are waiting for more hands-on impressions before fully buying in. Alright, let's get into the action, because no Dune game would be complete without combat, and of course, the infamous sandworms. From what we've seen so far, the combat in Dune Awakening is a mix of third-person shooting and melee mechanics, and it's fast-paced but grounded. You won't be flying around like a superhero. This is gritty, survival-based combat. Guns, blades, explosives all look like they have weight and impact. Online players have pointed out that the gunplay looks decent, but not revolutionary. Some are comparing it to The Division or Days, with slow tactical engagements rather than twitchy FPS firefights. And honestly, that kind of slower combat fits the vibe of Dune, where every encounter feels dangerous and deliberate. Vehicles are another huge part of gameplay. We've seen footage of players riding ornithopters, skimming across dunes in ground vehicles, and using gear to quickly escape dangerous zones. The scale of the world makes vehicles feel necessary rather than optional, which adds another layer of immersion. But the real game changer? The sandworms. These aren't scripted boss fights, they're dynamic world events. If you make too much noise or disturb the desert, a sandworm can show up and absolutely ruin your day. This has sparked a lot of buzz online, with players loving how unpredictable and terrifying these encounters can be. But there's a concern too. If the worms are too common, they might get annoying. If they're too rare, they might not live up to the hype. It's all about balance. So far, the devs seem to be treating sandworms as both a threat and a spectacle.
Arrakis is a test.
And if they pull it off, it could be one of the most memorable parts of the entire experience.
Few survive.
If there's one thing that Dune Awakening seems to absolutely nail, it's the feeling of actually living on Arrakis. The world design is immersive on a different level. We're talking about endless stretches of desert, crumbling ruins, massive spice fields, and hidden Freeman caves that feel like they were pulled straight out of the novels and movies. The atmosphere is harsh, oppressive, and beautiful all at once. You can almost feel the heat radiating off the sand and hear the silence of the desert, until a storm or sandworm breaks that peace. Players online are praising how the game doesn't just use the Dune setting as a backdrop. It makes you feel like a part of that brutal ecosystem. This isn't just about surviving the desert, it's about understanding it, respecting it, and mastering it. The integration of lore also goes deep. Factions like the Atreides, Harkonnens, and Fremen play a big role, and the devs seem committed to keeping the political and spiritual aspects of Dune alive. Spice isn't just a collectible resource, it ties directly into character progression and the economy, just like in the original story. You'll see Mentat tech, Bene Gesserit philosophy, and all the iconic Dune elements woven into how the world works. On Reddit, people are already posting theories about how deeply the game might go with hidden lore, side quests, and secrets buried in the sands. And that's what's really exciting. It's not just a surface-level tie-in. This could be a rich, living world that rewards exploration and knowledge, especially for longtime Dune fans. But again, it all depends on execution. If the lore is just flavor text with no impact on gameplay, it'll disappoint. But if it's fully integrated, Dune Awakening might actually set a new standard for world building and survival MMOs. Now let's talk about what the community is actually saying, because Dune Awakening has sparked some seriously divided opinions online. On one side, you have the players who are totally hyped. They're saying things like, "This is the Dune game we've been waiting for. Survival, spice, politics, and giant sandworms. I'm in." These fans love the ambition, the scale, and the fact that it's not just another cookie-cutter RPG. For them, the survival MMO angle is a bold move that could make Dune stand out from every other sci-fi game out there. But on the flip side, there's a growing number of players who are cautious, and some who are straight-up skeptical. The main concern? That Dune Awakenings is trying to do too much and might not do anything well enough. People on Reddit and YouTube comment sections are bringing up familiar worries. Early access burnout, endless grinding, unbalanced PvP, and lack of direction. Some players fear it'll end up like other survival MMOs, fun for the first few hours, but eventually repetitive and empty without strong storytelling or community support. Others are even comparing it to New World, saying, yeah, it looked good in the trailers too, until the grind set in. And that's the core issue. The Dune universe is rich and legendary, but if the gameplay doesn't respect your time or if it's too PvP heavy, it could alienate a huge chunk of the audience. There's also a fear that casual players, especially those coming from the movies, might bounce off hard if they're not prepared for just how punishing the survival element is. Still, there's a hopeful energy in the community. People want this to succeed. They want to get lost in Arrakis, to fight for spice, to build alliances, and maybe, just maybe, shape the world in a way no other game has allowed. Expectations are high, but so is the pressure. The devs are walking a tightrope between hardcore survival players and Dune lore fans. And the big question is, can they pull it off? One of the biggest conversations happening around Dune Awakening right now isn't even about the gameplay. It's about the release strategy and monetization. Players are asking, will this be a full-priced game? Free-to-play? Season passes? Microtransactions? And honestly, the concern is valid. We've seen so many games with potential get buried by bad business models. If Dune Awakening launches with a pay-to-win shop, excessive cosmetics, or limited access behind paywalls, it could kill the momentum before the game even finds its footing. MMO players are especially wary of anything that feels exploitative. We're talking about a community that remembers the launch of New World, Fallout 76, and Anthem way too clearly. Then there's the early access debate. Right now, a lot of players assume this game will launch in early access, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but only if it's done right. If the devs communicate clearly, give regular updates, and actually listen to community feedback, early access could help the game evolve into something truly player-driven. But if it launches half-baked, with missing systems, server issues, and grindy mechanics just to keep people online, trust will vanish fast. And in 2025, trust is everything. Gamers are tired of being beta testers for full-price titles, and Dune fans won't stick around if it feels like the world of Arrakis was used just to push out another monetized sandbox. That said, the developers, Funcom, do have experience with survival MMOs, especially with Conan Exiles. That's giving some players a bit more hope, since they know the team has done this before. But Dune is a much bigger IP with way higher expectations. It's not just about building a game, it's about building a community and a legacy. If they get greedy with monetization, or if they overpromise and under-deliver, it won't just be a failed game. It'll be a missed opportunity that players will talk about for years. Right now, the best thing the devs can do is be honest, be transparent, and focus on delivering the experience, not just the product. So after everything we've seen, the gameplay reveals, community reactions, survival mechanics, and ambitious MMO systems, the big question is Dune Awakening worth your time? And honestly, it depends on what kind of gamer you are. If you love deep survival mechanics, massive open worlds, and the idea of building your legacy in a harsh, lore-rich sci-fi setting, then this game could be right up your alley. For fans of the Dune universe who've always dreamed of living on Arrakis, fighting for spice, escaping sandworms, and navigating faction politics, this is probably the most immersive version of that fantasy we've ever gotten. But if you're someone who's burned out on grind-heavy survival loops, or you're looking for a tight, narrative-driven experience with clear story direction, this might not hit the mark. The MMO elements, the faction warfare, and the scale of systems all sound exciting, but they also come with risks. If the servers struggle, if the balance is off, or if monetization becomes aggressive, that could break the experience fast. That's why a lot of players are saying the same thing online. Looks amazing, but I'm going to wait and see how it performs after launch. So here's the final take. If you're a hardcore survival fan or a big Dune enthusiast, this might be a day one pickup, especially if you don't mind a bit of early roughness. But for everyone else, this is probably a watch closely situation. Wait for reviews, watch how the devs respond to feedback, and see if the game grows or stumbles in its first few months. Because with a game this ambitious, the launch is just the beginning. And whether Dune Awakening becomes a genre-defining classic or another forgotten MMO experiment will depend entirely on what happens next.
Arrakis is a test.
And that's it for today's deep dive into Dune Awakening. Whether you're hyped, cautious, or somewhere in between, one thing's for sure. This game is ambitious, risky, and definitely one to keep your eye on. I'll be following it closely as we get more updates, patches, and community feedback. So if you're interested in how this journey across Arrakis unfolds, make sure you stick around. Thanks so much for watching. Seriously, it means a lot. If you enjoyed the breakdown or it helped you make up your mind, don't forget to drop a like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you want more honest, no BS game coverage like this. I've got more reviews, critiques, and gameplay analysis on the way, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Until next time, stay sharp, stay hydrated, and don't step where the sandworms sleep. Catch you in the next one.